Hi, I'm Debbie Harbeck, and I'm a certified life coach working with women in midlife and through the menopause transition. So each week, I'll be sharing the latest information, inspiration, and generate some momentum so you can move forward and feel more in control of your changing midlife body and your life. Let's go. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. And I'm happy you're here with me today. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and I've been listening back to the episodes I've done, in particular with guests. And something I've noticed that keeps coming up, and I was aware of it, but I've never really addressed it. And that's that every guest I've had on the show, no matter what their background or their career or their life story, they always say a version of the same thing when I ask them, what has been the best thing about getting older for them? It's a question I always ask to every guest that has been on the podcast. And they say a version of, well, one of the best things about getting older is that I care a lot less about what other people think. Almost every guest has said this. And when I hear that, I always nod in recognition because it's true for me too. At some point in midlife, I think something shifts for many of us, especially as women. I think we stop overthinking every decision. We stop trying to please everyone. We stop trying to twist ourselves into shapes that make other people comfortable. At least these are the things we start thinking about more. And my question is, why does this happen? Is it that we have more wisdom? Is it that we're just exhausted? Is it our hormones? Or is it something deeper about how we grow as humans and women in particular? So today I want to explore 3 reasons that this shift, I believe, happens in midlife and why it's actually one of the greatest gifts of getting older. And it obviously is because that's what everybody seems to say. So the first one is that life experience shows us that approval doesn't actually protect us. And I think when we're younger, most of us believe that if we behave the right way, if we're a good girl, if we say the right things, if we keep everyone happy, then life will go smoothly. Then we'll be safe, or we'll be liked, or we'll be loved. So we try to be the good employee, the good partner, the good daughter, the good mom, the good friend. But I know by this time in your life, as in my life, you've had experiences that challenge this belief. Like maybe you had a relationship that ended even though you tried your best and you were a good person. Or maybe you've worked incredibly hard in your career and you still got passed over for a promotion. Or maybe you bent yourself into a pretzel trying to keep everyone happy and realized you still weren't appreciated. I hear this so many times in my practice. I think over time, we start to realize something very clear that no matter the amount of people pleasing you do, it does not guarantee a smooth life. And psychologists actually talk about something called identity consolidation in midlife. It's the process of realizing that what you do, such as the roles that you play in your life, aren't as important as who you are. So you go from needing that external approval to looking for meaning in your life. It's exactly why I left a job when I turned 40, that corporate job on the outside that looked great to everybody, that everybody thought was the most fantastic thing, but I was struggling to find meaning. And now I'm a coach because of that. What I think we learn is that no matter what we do or what we choose, other people will judge us. No matter what, even if you think you're choosing what everybody wants you to choose, you will still be judged. And once that becomes clear, you feel this sense of liberation. You stop worrying about everyone else's opinion about you and you start focusing on living in alignment with what you want and what you value. So that's the first thing. The second thing that happens is what I found out is that it's actually biological because there is research out there showing that as we age, as we get older, our emotional priorities change. So when we're younger, our brains are literally wired for status, for achievement, for social approval. We're looking to create a future, and that makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, right? You're building your life, you're forming partnerships, you're raising children, you're establishing your place in the world. But as we get older, as we come to this place in our lives, midlife, our brains start prioritizing something else, more like emotional meaning over social validation. So we start asking, does this actually matter to me instead of what will people think? We start seeing our choices through this completely different lens. And the research backs this up. It shows that older adults tend to experience greater emotional stability and less anxiety about social judgment. So, in other words, it's not just that we decide to care less, but our brains are actually evolving biologically in this direction. We're going towards greater emotional clarity. And that is just amazing to me. I think the third and final reason that we probably care less about what others think is that being in midlife brings a powerful awareness of time. It makes you aware of your own mortality and that life here on earth is not unlimited. I know when we're young, maybe up until our 30s, we feel like life is wide open, like we still can do anything and we have time to do anything. But in your 40s and 50s, that shifts. You start noticing your parents aging, your friends going through illness, or maybe you have been through illness, people you know have passed away, and you become aware of dreams that you postponed that you probably won't realize in this lifetime. When we become aware that our time is limited, we naturally start focusing on what matters most. And what matters most is rarely trying to impress people or meeting everyone else's expectations. So, what matters most to the majority of us are meaningful relationships, our health and well being, our purpose, our creativity, our freedom, and our authenticity. I've learned this lesson after years of coaching women in midlife. We just want to love and be loved for who we are, our authentic selves. And once you start seeing life through this lens and being that authentic self, other people's opinions lose their power. And I think this is the beautiful paradox of midlife. When you stop trying so hard to be liked, you actually often become more likable. And when you stop performing, you become more authentic. And when you stop chasing approval, you start attracting people who genuinely resonate with you. That's the paradox. Being yourself is magnetic. And it's at this point in life where I think that we as women begin to give ourselves permission to live that way, finally. And if you haven't, if you're listening to this today and you notice this shift happening in your own life, I'd invite you to ask yourself a simple question. Where in my life am I still living for other people's approval? Maybe it's the career you're in right now, or maybe certain relationships, or maybe you've noticed you're holding yourself back from something you really wanted. Whatever it is, go ahead and ask yourself then this next question. What would change if I trusted myself more than other people's opinions? Because that right there is a doorway to the freedom so many women describe in midlife. It's what I probably work on more than anything else in my practice is to get beyond the point where you are questioning yourself and becoming more certain and aware and even in love with who you are. And that is why I love working with women at this stage because it's a time when we're finally ready to start choosing ourselves over others, where we value truth and we value being our true selves instead of trying to be something others expect us to be. And it's also a time when we see that life isn't just about stuff, but it's about meaning. We want to feel like our lives mean something and that we're being our honest, authentic selves and contributing in some way. That doesn't necessarily mean that life becomes easier. Actually, it probably becomes a little harder sometimes. I can definitely attest to that, but it becomes a lot more honest and true and free. There's nothing better than that. So, if this episode has resonated with you, share it with a friend who might need to hear it today. And if you're navigating your own midlife transition and you're looking to live more authentically and care less about what others think, well, that's exactly the work I love doing with women every single day. So just visit me at debbieharbeckcoaching.com or go into the show notes where you can click on the link and book a time to talk with me. I would love to meet with you. And I just want to thank you again for listening. I want you to keep moving forward, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Midlife Momentum Podcast. If you want to learn more about working with me, come visit me at debbieharbeckcoaching.com. That's Debbie, I-E, Harbeck with a C, coaching.com. See you next week.